I'd like quickly to review and get them on the record, the images we looked at last time. As far as we know, this is the oldest architectural drawing known, and I can't remember if it's from 3500 BC or 3500 years ago. In any case, it's just drawn with a stick in clay. It's from Sumer, where they use the cuneiform writing system. Marks a little triangular shaped stick they'd press into the clay and tell, who knows, instructions to the contractors or describing the room names, not sure. Here, if you remember, was the map of the French monastery at St. Gall, where you have the everything laid out in a very clear order. Again, this was probably done in ink on either linen, a very fine linen, or else on vellum, which is the interior lining of a sheep's stomach. And then here, finally, urban designers working on Cambridge, Massachusetts, on an unimaginably large sheet of paper. Anyway, a little tiny history of drafting. We're going to be drafting with AutoCAD, learning how to do that this semester. Like any Windows application, a single left click, shown here by the red circle, simply selects an icon so the icon itself can be moved around on the screen. A right click, shown here with the green circle, brings up all the things you can do with that icon or with that program, like open the program or open a particular file. A double click is what it takes, double left click, to actually launch the program. From the start screen, you'll be presented with the most recent drawings that you've worked on this computer. So we have a choice between selecting a drawing here. From here, we can pick Open, which brings up File Explorer, so we can go find these wherever they might happen to be. Or New, and if we use the down arrow here, it will give us a list of template files, which are AutoCAD drawings set up in a certain useful way. And for right now, let's all just use the ACAD.dwt. DWT stands for Drawing Template, just so we're all starting in the same place. So AutoCAD is a regular Windows program in that it has a title bar, it's got a ribbon, it's got controls across the bottom. It also has palettes, which sometimes have particular tools on them. Sometimes they have settings for the drawing. Sometimes they have settings for individual objects. So AutoCAD is a big program, but it's just a regular Windows program where F1 brings up the help menu, plus videos, that kind of stuff. Escape is a cancel if we're drawing a line. Hitting escape will then terminate that command. Control Z will undo the last command, which in this case was drawing those line segments. AutoCAD also has one feature that few other programs have, which is a command line. You can see down here at the bottom. I'll drag it up so we can see it a little better, which used to be the only interface with the program. You would type the name of the command that you wanted, like line. And then it would say specify the first point. You pick a point with the left mouse button and next point, next point, next point. And as I said, either escape. We have a couple of options that is telling you here to continue. Close will draw a line back to the very beginning. Undo will back out the previous step. So I'm going to do close there. And command line is very helpful, especially when you're learning how to use the program, because it's always telling you what it expects you to do next, whatever your situation is. And I find that having it parked down here at the bottom is, my eye just does not go there. So I'm going to do a couple of things. One is I'm going to drag it up to the top of the screen, where it now has its own highly visible place where I can see not only the command that I've done, but the previous series of commands and prompts that either I or the computer has issued. So if I do line, let's do circle. Circle. It says specify the center point of the circle. And then here are some options, but that's what we'll do. Specify the center point of the circle, click, and then specify the radius of the circle. So I can just drag out to create the radius. You see me moving around the screen. The mouse wheel will zoom you in and out. Objects don't change their actual size. If that's a 4-foot long line, it stays 4 feet. We're just like a zoom lens, we're seeing it closer up. And also, if you hold down the mouse wheel and drag it, then we can just pan around on the screen. Zooming and panning are fundamental operations in the AutoCAD programs. Let's look at the AutoCAD screen from top to bottom, give the names to things, and understand what we're looking at. Across the very top is what they call the title bar, which contains a number of things. First of all, it's the name of the program, the drawing that we're working on. This hasn't been named yet. AutoCAD will just start giving it a drawing one, and we'll name it actually when we end up saving it. Across here is what's called the quick access toolbar, which has a number of tools that are used very frequently. That, you know, file open, file save, file print, that kind of thing, undo, redo. And any tool that you find yourself using a great deal, you can drag its icon up to here and have it immediately available instead of maybe having to wade down through a couple of levels of menus. Next, I would see the command line. If you want to resize that, it's funny, it looks like it should resize, but it doesn't. If you need to resize it, this is like its grip right here, that series of dots. Grab it there and drop it down into the bottom, where you can actually change its height, and then drag it back up. I didn't make this up, it's just there. Anyway, with all of this, we're sort of trying to decide what we want to use screen space for and what we don't need screen space for. And as you can see, this takes up a whole lot of extra space, but I usually use it here. This is just where my eye goes when I'm trying to run a program, this sort of upper left corner. And I think it's easy for you all to be able to see it all by itself instead of superimposed on top of the geometry farther down the screen. So title bar, command line, and then there's the ribbon, the main Windows interface that is set up with a number of tabs, each of which have their own appropriate kinds of tools on them. As you can see, there are a lot of tools in AutoCAD, around 1,300 different ones. We probably will end up using 20, frankly, in this class. Like some of the Adobe programs, AutoCAD comes with optional palettes that you can turn on and off as needed. This properties palette is what lets us change the color, the properties of any given object or objects. And we can, if we just need more space or don't need to be doing that, we can turn that off. If we want to turn it back on, I think we just type properties. Yeah, and I think Control 1. Yeah, Control 1 turns properties on and off. So what you're seeing already is that AutoCAD provides a number of different ways to interact with the program. You can type a command, you can pick something off the ribbon, or a number of controls, as we'll see, work with the function keys to do things very, very quickly. Here's the drawing area or the graphics area, depending on which book you're reading. It's a vast space. It goes on, essentially forever. Highly accurate and huge. We never have to worry about running out of room. At the center of the graphic space is the coordinate system icon that represents the origin of the XY coordinate system that AutoCAD is using to remember the locations of all the objects in the drawing. And if you remember from algebra, we'd be mapping points in an XY plane, X increasing this way, Y increasing that way, increasing from 0, positive X, positive Y, negative Y, and Z would be coming straight out at us if we're working in 3D. Down at the bottom, we have the status, what's called the status bar, which gives us a look at current settings for AutoCAD that can be turned on and off to change how it works. For instance, if I'm drawing lines, at the cursor, I'm getting sort of a little mini command line where it's telling me to specify the first point. So I'll click a point here. And then we're giving several options here with the length of it and the angle. But for now, I'm just going to be clicking points. And right now, this is called dynamic input, and we'll get to this. But for right now, I would like to turn these off. and the F12 key turns that off. So F12 turns dynamic input on and off. Another very useful tool is ORTHO, which constrains the cursor to move in just vertical and horizontal directions. Normally, if I'm drawing a line, I can draw at any angle I want. Let's turn those guys off. But if I want to go straight up or straight down without having to like zoom in and be crazy, I can hit F8, which toggles ORTHO on, and now I can only draw. I can't go at an angle. I can hit F8 again and resume drawing it with angles. Turn back on again. Oops, wrong button. And I'm again constrained to those. And escape quits. A similar tool, let's just get it out of the way with, is called object snaps. When you're drawing things, it's nice to be able to start a new line. You can see when the green arrow appears, that means I'm snapped to that point. Turn ORTHO off. Now snap over to this point. If you want to be free of that, F3, which you'll see down here, toggles that on and off. So if I want to be sure to hit this point, I'll toggle F3 on, which will turn on my object snap and let me snap to that endpoint or to this midpoint, for instance. And there are a couple of other things that it snaps to, centers of circles like that. So that's F8 to toggle ORTHO, F3 to toggle object snap. And we're going to practice with these a lot, so bear in mind what they are, but don't feel like you have to memorize them at this point. Now let's talk about different ways to communicate with AutoCAD. And there's several. As I said, there's the command line, which was the original method. You can use the tools on the ribbon. And as you'll see, each of those comes with its own little instructions in case you forget what those are. If those ever get in the way, you can type tooltips and set that value to 0. And then you won't get those little helpers. I'm going to turn it back on again so that we will see those happening. Once you've made some objects like these, we can then, there are a number of ways to edit them. One is simply to select them, and then each has a number of grips. There's always one that is the one that moves the object itself. And then there's others, in the case of lines, they're here at the ends, where you can then move their endpoints. This doesn't attach two things to each other. It just moves one thing to where it needs to be. So a horizontal line can become an angled line, and an angled line can become a vertical line. It doesn't matter. With a circle, there's only really one point associated with it, which is its a center point, which we can use to move it. But then we have its 4 quadrant points, any one of which can be used to stretch it. I should say to enlarge it. These are called grips, and each object type has its own set of grips that respond appropriately to what you want to do with that kind of object. For instance, an ellipse will have a center point, and then you can control the minor axis or the major axis. Those controlled independently. In terms of communicating with AutoCAD, if you want to see more past commands than was just right here, F2 brings up this dialog, this screen, which shows you as much as you care to scrolls you all the way back through to the beginning of the drawing. We can create things using the ribbon menu alone, We can use the ribbon menu with keyboard input. Let's say we wanted to make a line that was 12 inches long. I pick line, click, move the cursor. Don't click it, just in the direction you want it to go. Let's use F8 and make that horizontal. And type 12. And that line will now be, that newly created line will now be 12 inches long, which we can verify by selecting it. And on the properties command, seeing that its total length is indeed 12 units. So we've seen how you can use the menu items by themselves to create things, or with one dimension. If you want to give something that's a little more complicated, let's say a line of a certain length, a line at a certain angle. So here, if we pick a line and I want to go from here, let's say over 12 and up 5, up here, I don't have to move the cursor up here. AutoCAD is waiting for me to type something. I type at 12, 5, which means from where I'm at, go 12 in the X direction and 5 in the Y direction. If I want to go straight up 12, I've got two ways to do that. One is I could turn ortho on and just type 12, or turn ortho off, drag anywhere, and say from where I'm at, go 0 in the X direction, 12 in the Y direction. A couple of different ways to enter that will be of some use to you. A couple of things I would like to bring to your attention in terms of, a lot of times we're doing repeating using commands one right after the other. And AutoCAD has the ability to repeat a command just by hitting the enter key once you're done with it. So for instance, if I pick circle and click here and make one, now we're just back at please type a command. If I hit the enter key, it will repeat that prompt. I can just keep hitting enter and circle after circle. And the spacebar serves the same function. Let's pick lines. Let's pick circles that actually end a command. A circle, then spacebar is just like hitting the enter key in that respect. I don't have to keep going circle, drag, circle, drag, circle, drag. I can just hit the spacebar for, if you're placing circles for trees or pebbles or something or other, you don't want to have to keep doing an individual command for each of those. You might notice that sometimes I've just been typing the letter L for line. A lot of commands have shortcuts like that, which are shown on the last page of the lecture notes. These are just but a few that I think will be useful to you for arcs and circles and lines and copying stuff. C is the shortcut for circle. CO is the shortcut for copy, which you can either use either by typing CO, typing copy, or picking the copy command. A crucial concept in CAD is that we are always drawing things at full scale. If we're drawing a rectangle that represents a desk that's 30 by 60 inches, and here I want to go at 60, 30. We will always draw a desk this big, and it's not until this needs to end up on paper that we decide on a scale, and that makes it, be some proportionally much smaller rectangle on paper. But we're always drawing things at full scale. In our work and in architectural work, this almost always means reducing the size of something when it's printed by a factor of 48 for a quarter scale drawing. For a mechanical engineer, it might mean plotting something like a complex gear larger than life so the machinist can fully understand exactly what's going on there. or chemist or something like that. You know, they're drawing tiny things that they need to enlarge to be able to see. So let's talk about units. You know, how big are all these things? First of all, we've just been drawing. If we select this, it's just giving us a number of units, not with feet and inches. Let's turn feet and inch units on so we can see those and sort of understand more clearly what's going on. And to do that, we type units. And let's just pick architectural. And we have a choice of how accurate we want values to be reported over here in properties and in dimensions. And let's just say we want them to the nearest 1/8 of an inch. Okay. So now when we go to line, we can enter 3 feet 6 inches. Uh, 1 foot 2.5 inches. At 12 feet, 4 feet. A number of ways we can enter dimensions in AutoCAD. And let's say we want to do 13.5 inches. When we're set with architectural units, inches are the default unit. So I can say 13.5 equals 13.5 inches. 1 foot 1.5 is 13.5 inches. 1 foot 1/2 inches equals 13.5 inches. Since inches are the default unit, I can actually leave off the inch mark. 1-1/2. That's 13.5 inches. What I can't do is 1 foot space 1-1/2, because if you remember, AutoCAD is interpreting this space as the same as enter, and will think you want this to be 12 inches long. But these are different ways that AutoCAD will accept numbers in the architectural foot and inch category. And I guess the point of, let's get rid of this because it's just gone, is the foot mark separates feet from inches, and the dash separates inches from fractional inches. Apart from that, it's pretty clear. So those are the basic 4 ways. Oh, we could also do 13. We could also do 13-1/2 inches. Again, the dash separating the inches from the fractional inches. We've looked at some of the zooming options just with the mouse wheel. If you want to see on the screen everything that's in the drawing, you can type Z, enter, E, enter for zoom extents, and it will automatically size everything to fit on the screen. I would like you to explore on your own how these tools work. You notice a number of them have different ways to construct them depending on the information you have. For instance, the normal way to construct circles is a center point and a radius. It might be that you know the center point and the diameter. Let's say 14 inches. 14 inches, yeah. So when we go to pick this in properties, we can see radius is 7, diameter is 14. And that might be because you have been given a very specific diameter, some long fraction, long decimal, and you don't want to have to divide it in half and enter that number. You can enter diameter directly. There are a couple others that are interesting. I like a lot. circle 2 points is just 2 points on the outside of the circle. 2-point circle. A click, a top and a bottom. You know, I don't know how far they are. Let's do circle. The bottom is there and the top is there. Fine, perfect. Let's pick a triangle. Let's draw a triangle. Remember how I get back to there? Escape. I can do circle, circle, 3-point. You know, that's some interesting math going on. There's lots of ways to do arcs because engineers designing gears and roadways and things start with different pieces of information to create the arc. Sometimes they know radiuses, sometimes they know angles, sometimes they know directions. I don't use them very much. Rectangles, you will see, are easy. Another thing you do with a rectangle, it's asking us, we can click it, and now we have some options up here in the top line where we can specify another corner point, or we can give it, we can tell it the area we want, or the dimensions we want, or the rotation we want. Let's do the dimensions for right now. So to do that, we just simply here at this prompt, which is where AutoCAD is waiting for our information, we type a D for dimensions, D, and hit enter. And then the length, let's make that 48 inches. And then the width, which is the height, we'll make that 24 inches. Let's start another one from right here. Rectangle, first corner point. Let's just lock into there. And so we want D to be 50 and the height to be 25. So there's that. Oh, I see, that's what it's doing. That's what it's doing. It's saying, where do you want that to happen? Forgot about that. We can also do rectangle at 50, 25. And that one does not revolve, that's just made. The modify tools, let's do move. So this, you select the command, pick the object or objects you want to move, hit enter to say I'm done selecting them. Now it says specify the base point, which is where you're starting from, let's say from here. I want to move them all over to here, or to here, just to get them out of the way. And you can use the object snaps to move them a specific distance, for instance. Move. I can pick those, or I can click and click a window, hit enter, drag and drag. Move. Or select them one by one. When you're done, hit enter. Move them all from there to there using object snaps to do that. Copy is the same thing, except it leaves the original where it is. We'll skip stretch. We'll go into, let's go to rotate, pick it, hit enter when you're done. Say what's the base point? Let's say I want it to rotate around this point. Then we can just eyeball it where we want it to go, or type an angle. Mirror. Again, we select objects, hit enter. Then a mirror line, a vertical mirror line. I'll turn on F8 to make that happen. We'll give that. Escape to, oops, sorry. Forgot something. Mirror. Pick them. Enter. Down. Down. Now here's where it's important to be watching the command line, because it's asking me, we haven't quite finished yet. Erase source objects, yes or no, and I'll hit no. and then we're good. Then we're out of the command and ready to do other stuff. At this point, we have a lovely drawing, and we like to save it. So our main file tools are here under the red AutoCAD button. We'll just do save. And in this case, I don't want it to save it. I don't want its name to be drawing 1. I'm going to do save as. This will give us a location. I'm going to stick it on my desktop for now. And I'm going to call it lecture 1 demo. And AutoCAD will append to that the .dwg file type. Save. Having saved the file, now I'll exit AutoCAD. So here it is right here. To go back to this drawing, I can either double click on it right here on the desktop or wherever it is. Or I could have started AutoCAD from its icon and then opened the drawing from the start page. That's it for today.